Hello and welcome to another edition of Grandstanders Live. I'm your host, Scott Kerman, and I'm joined by my usual cohorts, the Professor Russ Stevens and Uncle Joe McLaughlin. And hopefully JP's first son, Tim Hoey, will be joining us in moments. Oh, boys, we have a great show for tonight. So let's get started. Look, I'm all about winning teams in this town. So when you win 9 straight, you catapult to the number one topic on this show. The Boston Celtics deserve it. There's only 82 games in the season, so when you win 9 of them straight, that's something.
Makes a big difference. Evidently, when you win 9 straight games, you get a little place in Joe's wardrobe too.
Yeah, right.
Last Sunday I went out and bought a new sweatshirt to celebrate.
Wow.
I think they had 6 in a row at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it was well worth it, and you'll be glad to know, Russ, yesterday I took my Super Bowl winnings and put it on the Celtics to win the championship.
Did you now? What'd you get? What kind of odds?
Oh, I think it was about 25-1.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
I didn't have a lot of money. I only made like about $75 on the Super Bowl, even hitting the middle. And I just threw it all on that. I figured, well, take a pie in the sky bet.
Yeah, 25-1 is, I mean, it's a good chance they could possibly get out of the Eastern Conference. I mean, it's still probably about 4-5-1, I would imagine, at least.
I think that
they've done well against Milwaukee this year. I think they've won every game.
Well, I verified this. I'd seen a tweet earlier today that the Celtics are the only team in the Eastern Conference to have to have a winning record against teams above 500. The Celtics are 13-8 this year against teams that are better than 500, which just goes to show you how dreadfully they blew some of those easy wins. I mean, if you take half of those blown games, and just shift them, they're probably the number one seed in the East at this point.
Great point. I'm not afraid of any team in the East. I'm just afraid of one player. That's Giannis.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I mean, the Miami.
I don't like a full strength Atlanta either. They don't seem to do well against Atlanta.
But Atlanta's not. I mean, Atlanta's is fighting to get into the play-in at this point.
Yeah.
And I just think that.
But they were like that last year, remember? And then they caught fire like the Celtics have caught fire. And then they were, barnstorming their way right through the playoffs.
Trae Young is going to do a lot to keep you in a game.
What's that, Scotty?
Trae Young is going to do a lot to keep you in the game. He's going to heave up bad shots.
Instant offense,
Yeah, so I don't worry about him so much. It's a guy like Giannis who we don't have an answer for.
Mm-hmm. But now we have 3 guys to throw against him.
Well, I was going to say,
beat him up a little.
Traditionally, we haven't had an answer for Joel Embiid. And, that was a systems defense last night. They were throwing 3 guys at him, and they were coming at him from all angles. And he never got untracked last night.
Yeah, with Embiid, I think that you got to tire him out.
Mm-hmm.
And when you tire him out in the second half, he'll quit a little bit or start heaving up those 3-pointers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look, this. Hey, Timmy.
Hey, boy. JP first.
The whole thing about defense wins championships. I mean, I think that saying is based on defense is the kind of thing you can control from night to night. You can't control 3-point shots and how they're falling, but boy, you can go out and you can basically play that same level of defense night in and night out. And I think we're seeing this is one of the best defensive teams I've ever seen.
Wow.
It really is.
Especially with that nice lineup of D. White and Smart at the guards, the Jays on the wings, and you can put Rob or Tice in there, depending what kind of defense you want to run.
Right. If you think about their top 7 guys, right? Grant Williams is not long, but he's one of the strongest MFers in basketball. There was a play last night where he went straight up and Maxey ran into him, and Maxey went down like Kennedy did when he got shot, for God's sake.
He got the offensive foul too to boot.
He got the offensive foul, but everybody else is long and a good defender in their top rotation. I mean, that's hard to beat.
All right, Timmy, are we talking up too much for a team that was just desperately in 500 land, or are we?
The part that's confusing for me is we never saw this team really all together. You know,
That's right, Tim.
there were very few
Right.
games. I don't know if you can count them on two hands on when we had the full unit together.
That's right. Yep. Up
And
in
now we have an improved version of that full unit with the addition of Tyson and White. Is his name, I believe?
Yeah.
yeah.
Who knows? Is this what these guys could have been if they had been together all year? I don't know. But all I can go is what I'm seeing now, boy, and they're rolling.
Yeah. Timmy, you're right in a sense. I think before Smart came back, with the day that Smart came back, that starting five had been in 16 games together all year.
Yeah.
Right. And, clearly that's the number one reason. But the other thing is, like, whatever Ime is selling defensively, they're buying, because you're seeing these guys on a string switching seamlessly on defense from one guy to another. And then even in the same possession, they won't switch. And it's got to be driving teams completely crazy playing against them right now.
Okay, so we didn't turn on Ime Udoka. We knew that he was obviously a new coach and stuff, but is this a system that's finally that the players are finally getting to? Do we talk about Udoka like a football coach? It's going to take until November or early December before they figure it out. Is this what's happening?
No, they brought it. A lot of it is they've really gelled in the last 3 games since they brought in this Derek White, who, of course, Ime was familiar with in his time with the Spurs. He coached him for 4 years. He probably asked for him personally. And, obviously Jason Tatum asked for him too. But he seems to have fit in very well. You don't really notice him except you see that crazy guy running off the ball. So things have really, I think Brad deserves a little round of applause for this current incarnation.
Absolutely. Yeah, Timmy, we would seem to be depending with Danny Ainge on mid-round, first-round picks and second-round picks off our bench and hoping they develop. Brad Stevens said, screw that. I'm going to get an established veteran player because veterans win in the NBA. Rookies are just talk.
I was just thinking that exact same thought. We got rid of the Jetsam and the Floatsam, right? Is there any other sport where, like, I guess there is boxing, golf, whatever. What the cream of the crop in that sport really elevates itself. There's so many people here, and there's just not many the level above. So the goal, you have to get to that level above. There's a million, name them all. Who's the guys we just got rid of, and the 5 guys before that we got rid of,
Yeah, the Romeo Langford to the world, the James Youngs.
Yeah, they make no impact at all, So
the whole G League.
You better have given up 10 of them for one guy that can make an impact.
The whole G League is with mid-round, first-round picks. That's the whole G League.
Well, the only good player they gave up was Jay Rich. Everyone else was kind of junk. Even Freedom, he's a decent role player.
So, the sad part is that was like 14th and 15th picks in the first round, right? I mean, where was Langford?
That was the way Danny controlled his payroll. He would put it all on the top 5, and the bottom 8 were his second round picks that just languished on the bench.
The guys we gave up, they were mid-round first round draft picks, right?
Yeah.
Well,
hang on.
I would sell them to other teams. They were a 14th pick.
We had 5. I would put it. We had 5 guys on this team that were drafted mid to late in the first round.
Yeah.
Rob Williams, Romeo Langford, Aaron Neesmith, Peyton Pritchard, and Grant Williams. And he got rid of one of them, right? He got rid of Romeo. The jury is out on Neesmith and Pritchard, but he had to get rid of one of them. Like you couldn't, there just weren't enough minutes to give those guys any developmental time for the rest of the year. So good on Brad, where he realized I could consolidate the end of the bench.
Yeah.
Get rid of Schroeder. Richardson played well, but White is an upgrade. And give Ime has a very, very clear rotation right now.
Oh.
His job got a lot easier.
It certainly did.
Look, he got rid of 6 of the 15 players in the roster. He got rid of 40% of the roster.
In mid-season. That's
a pretty big
something.
turnover. And like Joe said, other than Jay Rich, we don't miss any of them.
Yep.
You know,
Get out of the G League right now and get equivalent talent tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, and Langford was just the guy with it. You know, we drafted him, and we have to keep on playing him to see if we can get something for that draft pick. It felt like a tryout every time he was on the court.
Yeah, and he does not have the upside that that Neesmith has. I mean, look, you can sit here, we could probably argue. I mean, we should, you know, I don't want to step on your topics, but like, I would argue that like this Celtic team, this configuration of this Celtic team is basically, I think, improved, better shooting away from seriously contending. And whether that better shooting is coming from internally, or you've got to this summer go get a shooter, right? Like a Buddy Hield or a Duncan Robinson or a Luke Kennard or something like that. Neesmith is a guy who was a good, like Neesmith has been a good shooter. Romeo Langford has never been a good shooter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't you think Neesmith has looked a lot looser since Romeo has left the picture?
Sure. Because,
Like he was hindering Neesmith more than anyone.
Yep.
Well, Langford was a guy who was taking 3-point shots because that was the game of 3-pointers. If he didn't have the 3-point shot, he would never take anything past 12 feet. It's just not his game. But I would ask you, Russ, in the buyout, do you think that there's a possibility that we can get a shooter for this season with the buyout?
Yeah. I mean, one of the guys already went off the board. I guess this guy Embry, who's a good shooter from the Nets, signed with somebody. Maybe like you know, there's always like guys like Wayne Ellington out there, but then you just say, I don't know, like, wouldn't you rather play Pritchard and see if he can
What's
get going
Isaiah
again?
Thomas doing these days?
Right, Isaiah Thomas, right? But like Pritchard's a really good shooter. It's just that he needs time. So I don't know if I'm guessing that Brad would bring somebody in if he felt like it was a significant upgrade over Pritchard.
You know, I'm looking for a shooter. Like when Pritchard takes that three, I'm usually guessing it's not going in. You need to get a guy who, when he heaves the three up, your first thought is it's going in.
Those guys aren't on the buyout market though, Tim.
I know.
Yep.
They're just not. I mean, you could trade for them, but they're not on the buyout market.
Dragic has always been a decent shooter.
Steve
He
Kerr's
should
of
be-
the world, you know.
He's
All right,
going to,
Joe.
like you said, Joe, he's going to go back to Miami, Dragon.
Yeah, that's where he lives. That's where he likes.
Yeah, and he killed us a couple years ago in the Eastern Conference
He's
Finals.
good.
He's a gritty guy. I like him a lot, but I don't know how well he blends in with the Jays and stuff. I'm going to bet that's not a good
Yeah.
fit.
Look, I think this team, you know, again, it won't be now, but like over the summer, if you were to tell me you could bring Buddy Hield in and the only thing you're sending out is like, you know, Grant Williams, some money and a pick. This team
Go for it.
he is really good. This team is really good at this point, at that point.
Hey, Buddy Hield's your third star. I don't care. We saying that he's the lesser of the three. I love Buddy Hield. Yeah, this is a guy who can put up, 8-10 points in 3 minutes, and that's the kind of guy they need when you rest in the Jays.
Yeah,
Things aren't rotating properly.
that's right.
But we have a lot more hope that Brad will be more aggressive than Danny. I mean, he's already shown that he's going to be. I mean, and like to really take some big steps over the summer.
Well, he was 3 days on the job. He traded Kemba and it's clear. And Scotty's been saying this for years, Ainge was always was getting water from a rock and always trying to win the deal. And if you think about Derek White, Brad went out and said, I want Derek White and I have White. And if I have to overpay for him a little bit, that's fine, because I really want Derek White. Danny Ainge never would have made that deal.
No, absolutely not. Yep. And
I've read a number of GMs over the last couple of weeks saying exactly that, Russ, that you can deal with Brad and you couldn't deal with Danny.
Yeah, Danny hasn't done that since the Pierce, Garnett, I've got to go out and get Eddie House and go out and get PJ Brown and those guys. He just stopped doing it.
Because it was a lack of effort.
Lazy. He got
Lack
lazy.
of effort. He's a
Well,
guy who
I
just
also think
defenses.
that Danny, he tried to always have it both ways. He wanted to win now and build for the future. And I think, honestly, you got to pick one.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it was an FU at the end of the deadline, literally minutes before the end of the deadline, getting Daniel Tice back. That was a message to Danny. Why did you get rid of him last year? You undermanned me for the playoffs. We never had a shot once you got rid of him. And that was laziness, like Joe said, trying to get under the luxury tax, but not really working that hard on the details.
Yeah. And by the way, not only gave up Tice, they gave up Javonte Green, who's starting for Chicago. And Chicago's the second seed in the East.
Yeah, right. Green would look awful good on this team.
He sure would.
Bring some energy.
And
he was a fan favorite. People liked him. There was no reason with a 15-man roster to send Green out the door.
Nope.
Danny just looked at the bottom line and said, well, this one and this one got to go. And he got rid of them. Now, but it worked out for Tice. Now he's back with them, and he's making more money to boot.
I could never figure out why they let Tice go. I mean, I always like
it under the cap.
So, Timmy, we panned the whole Brad Stevens, no longer coach, GM. Oh, he's just going to be looking at his watch, waiting for the top college job. Well, that's not the case. Brad Stevens is here to stay, wouldn't you say?
Well, I would say, you know what? I think he can just use his intellect now. I don't think he was comfortable dealing with the big ego NBA player. I don't know. What did he start off with? He started off with Kyrie Irving having to, dance around on eggshells with him. And not really started off, but that's what he has to deal with now. These superstar NBA players that you have to coach them up, yet you have to coddle them, and you have to, nurture them and all this. I think Brad's strength is his brain, not really his personality.
And he's low profile, Russ. You don't see him in the crowd much, and Danny was in the front row and yelling and screaming at the refs.
Yeah, look, Brad had to be and still is very careful about being too visible when Ime's the coach, right? The last thing you need to see is Brad going bananas in the stands because Ime doesn't challenge a call or something like that. So, but I think Brad's nature is to be very low key anyways.
Probably like you just said, a conscious decision. He was the coach, now he's the GM. Yeah. He does not in any way want to be casting any shade on the new coach.
Well, I think after last night, they played a top team, the Sixers, away, and they blew them out. Now, all of a sudden, they've reeled us all in.
I was on a plane last night. I couldn't believe when I landed and I saw the score.
Yeah. And
was the game? I mean, I didn't get to see the
wire to wire, Timmy. Wire to wire.
What, they played the 2 or 3 of their next 9 games against
that was Harden. Philly had their whole squad.
No, they did not have Harden. Look, Philly was undermanned a bit, but here's what I think is happening.
Harden, one of their best players.
What I think is happening is I think teams who are playing the Celtics now are very, very surprised at the level of defensive intensity that they're bringing to the table. I mean, it looked like last night the 76ers were just shocked at how well the Celtics were, how hard and how well the Celtics were playing them. And they just look completely.
I mean, this is the doldrums of February, right?
Yeah.
You're not used to seeing that, right? I mean, they're getting on a plane, they're sleeping in a hotel, and they're getting off it. They're all sleepwalking, a lot of these teams through this part of the season.
Yeah, that was a great road trip, though. I mean, they won all those games by like 30 points.
Yeah.
Plus.
Yeah, look, they've got a tougher schedule coming up. They got to go out west. They're going to play on the road. They're not, they're going to lose their fair share, but you're now looking at a situation where a top 4 seed in a home playoff round is absolutely in the equation.
Wow. When a team starts winning, a good vibe just starts happening. Like a baseball, the baseball seems bigger.
Yeah.
You're shooting the hockey puck. It looks like the net is a gigantic, like you're shooting into a lake. You know what I mean? Maybe they'll get into this vibe, but everything just the passes connect. Everything works.
Well, Well, I think a lot has to do with White and his relationship with the Jays. They like him. It was also from a talent perspective, but also a personality perspective. Brad had to acquire the right guy for those two to buy into it. And it is pretty clear, having them played with him in the USA team, that they like this guy, that he was willing, like you said, Russ, to give up a first round pick, a pick swap in 28, because this was the right guy for the next couple of years. Yep. And now all of a sudden the future in the next couple of years looks a lot brighter.
It does. What's really interesting is that, the other takeaway from Brad may be that he may or may not, like if you consider Buddy Hield the third star, then he's going to go out and get a Buddy Hield level player. I do believe that. I don't think Brad is looking at this team like, I got to get Bradley Beal. I got to get Karl Anthony Towns. Yeah, exactly. I have to get a top. I don't think Brad is looking at this team saying, we need another top 15 or 20 player to win a championship. I think he's now thinking, I need to surround these guys with the absolute best players I possibly can, because these two guys could be two top 20 players.
Plus, I think also he's put himself in a pretty good position. Every one of these top 7 or 8 in the rotation are signed for at least the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm. That's
so
right, Joe.
He's got everything, his way. He can deal from a position of strength, and and all these guys will come with ready-made contracts.
Yep.
And veterans like the PJ Browns of the world looking for a championship at the end of their career, they're more likely to come to the Celtics now, or at least we're candidates to get those players where we weren't before. Look, and now we can admit it's Jason Tatum's team. He's the star of the team. And he's not going anywhere. So let's make a pact that no one's trading Jason Tatum. That's ridiculous.
No. Yeah. And by the way, his game has improved markedly over the last 20 games. I mean, he's taking it to the hole. He's passing the ball. He's kicking it out.
He's defending.
He's not taking those really tough twos. He'll only take 2 of those a night instead of 7 of those a night.
And like Timmy as a season ticket holder, you can endorse this statement. When you see Jason Tatum in person, he's a big guy. He looks like a star. He's tall, he's long, he's strong.
He's got shoulders now. He's got shoulders. Now, the thing I want to point, Russ, bro, he takes it to the hole. When Jason Tatum is taking it to the hole, he is going to be succsuccessful.
Yeah.
But, he's going to get to the line. It's going to open him up for easier threes. When he just starts sleepwalking and taking threes all game long, it's a recipe for disaster. Maybe he'll get lucky a game and everything will go in. But for him to be consistently good, he has got to take it to the basket.
Well, people don't understand sports is like a stock. It goes up and down. And right now, that stock is trending high right now if you're buying the Celtic stock.
He is a young guy. Maybe, is he still under 25 years old?
23, I think, right?
Yes.
My God, he's 23 years old. I mean,
Larry Bird came into the league, I think he was 22.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Burrow's 25.
Yeah. So.
Bird was 23, wasn't he?
Maybe he was 23.
He year off and went back to school and blah, blah, blah.
Jason Tatum's already made $100 million plus already. All right, we go to football. Apparently there was a Super Bowl. And it was a good game. It was a good game because it was a Super Bowl. And, we like close Super Bowls. Bengals had a chance to win it. I'm not ready to crown the Rams a super team for this year. They beat the Bengals. They deserve it. But it's all because of one guy, Aaron Donald.
Yeah, he was. Well, I wouldn't. Cooper Kupp was pretty damn good.
He is. And Stafford was pretty good.
That season any receiver had ever had in the history of the game.
No, but Donald took over in the key moments of time, and he was the most dominant player on the field.
Pretty much how we predicted the defensive line was going to win the game for the Rams.
And some terrible play calling, Russ. Oh my God!
That was. I don't think that was a particularly well coached game. What McVay
on either side.
what McVay was doing, trying to run that ball was astounding. I mean, I couldn't understand. They were not getting anything on the ground, and he just kept trying to jam it in there. That was just silly. And why? And we were talking about this on text. Why? The Bengals had 2nd and 1 on that last drive.
Yeah.
2nd and 1, and they couldn't get a yard in 3 plays.
And then no pass run option. You should have been doing that. And
put the guy under center.
Creative at all.
If
You
you're
have to have
2nd
one
and 1,
play.
put him under center 3 times.
You have
right?
to have one play in your book that you pull out at that moment. One play that they've never seen and that works in practice 99% of the time. I think that was one of Belichick's secrets. He had that play in his book a lot of times.
But he usually saved it for the 2-point conversion.
Yeah, it's either your 2-point conversion or you save it for a moment like that.
Well, when you see Donald, that shows you how important moving forward Christian Barmore is, because that's the hope. The hope is that this guy could become an Aaron Donald in the next couple
I'll give
years.
whoever constructed that team some credit, because they built it from the inside out with that defensive line.
Yeah. Well, and they traded every first round pick they've had and will have in the next 3-4 years, right, Joe?
He sold out for this year.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
But it's very important because
Did you see the shirt that Leach was wearing at the parade today? Fuck the picks.
Oh, sorry.
Is that what he did? Yeah. Look, it's important. The Rams have been, in St. Louis, all over the place. They're back in LA. They have an incredible stadium. They need to build a fan base, a young fan base. And what builds a fan base quicker than when you win a Super Bowl, you win a championship. So this was important for them to go all in moving forward. You got a young coach. They're going to be in the mix for a long time. Because
how long is their lease at this stadium?
They own it.
Yeah,
They own it. They built it. They're not going anywhere.
No.
That's like Gillette.
Heard that before.
$5 billion stadium.
No, they put $5 billion into the ground out there.
$5 billion.
Yeah. All right. So, boys,
Yeah.
it's a copycat league. Watching the team that won the Super Bowl, and everybody wants to copy that. What are the Patriots missing that the Rams have right now?
Wide receivers like OBJ and Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, I'd also say, disruptive defensive linemen who can get to the quarterback rushing 3 or 4 people.
Yeah. Right. But when you watch a Stafford and a Burrows, do you think, oh my God, Mac Jones is so far behind those guys?
No. See,
I don't.
I put Mac Jones behind Aaron Rodgers. I put Mac Jones behind the Kansas City quarterback.
Oh, I'd put Mac Jones behind like 20 of the 32 quarterbacks in the league.
No, I don't know why.
But only because he's a rookie.
Like, I don't think either one of those quarterbacks are in the top. Questionable if they're in the top 7 or 8.
Oh, Stafford's a better quarterback than Mac Jones.
No, he
Joe
is.
Burrow is light years ahead of Mac
I
Jones.
understand. Oh, what are you talking about? Light years?
That's why they are who they are. And that's why the Patriots are where the Patriots are. The Bengals aren't that much better than the Patriots.
He was that good.
Right,
he stuck the joint out in Detroit for years, Joe.
No, he was a good.
No, he put up good numbers in Detroit. The rest of the team was
wasn't good
terrible.
enough to give them any winning seasons, was he?
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean,
No,
Yeah,
they
he
went
won
to
playoff games with them.
can we make sure we're comparing apples to apples? Like,
Right. Russ, this is right. They keep comparing Mac Jones to established quarterbacks.
Yeah, he's
not.
he hasn't had a full off season. He has a year under his belt.
Only a year starting in college.
Right. Can Mac Jones be in the league of Joe Burrow? I think Joe Burrow is more physically gifted than Mac Jones, but yeah, Mac Jones could get to be in the league with Joe Burrow. I believe
all
that.
the point is. I mean, we're not gonna compare him to Trevor
You're
Lawrence.
claiming that he's
Zach
better,
Wilson.
just as good as them. He isn't. He's not even close.
But that's where you lose me. Telling you is close. Yeah, absolutely. Burrows is a second-year player. What are you talking about? So
That's right.
Want to compare
Burrows
young?
was much more talented than Mac Jones ever will be.
I'll say one thing about Burrow. He seems to have it. You know what I mean?
Give
Yeah,
Mac
but
Jones,
by the way,
Chase, and Higgins, and we'll see how that works out.
That's
And
the
let's
other
see if
thing.
Mac Jones, when he gets sacked 9 times, he was seeing ghosts after getting hit
So-
once.
But that's the other thing. So there's two things to compare apples to apples. One, Mac Jones was a rookie. He hasn't even had the extra season like Joe Burrow did. Is Joe Burrow more physically gifted? Yes. The other thing that Joe Burrow has is Chase and Higgins and Tyler Boyd as a third
Yep.
receiver, right?
Yeah.
And their third receiver is probably our first receiver, right?
Exactly.
So like we gotta let this Mac Jones thing play out for another year or two to figure out what his ceiling is, because I believe that his arm will get better, his body will get better, and he's probably. I'm with Joe. I don't
His
think
mind will get better.
I don't think Mac Jones is ever going to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, but I think he can be a top 10 quarterback.
I agree. I'll
He'll
agree
never be
there.
Jared Allen. You know what I mean?
No,
Never. He
No.
will never
No.
be that.
he's not going to
But
be Pat Mahomes.
there's one thing, Burrow really made a leap this year when they brought Jamar Chase. Now, granted, rookie of the year, his old running mate from LSU. How about there's 2 wide receivers from Alabama coming up. They both suffered ACLs, so they will both drop in the draft. Maybe if we can grab one of them for Mac Young, someone he's worked with for a couple of years, that will work out. And you might be able to get definitely the Meckel kid you'll be able to get in the second round.
Can we hire a consultant to do a wide receiver draft picks this year?
Right.
Belichick has a
That West
history.
Coast scout better not do them, that's for sure.
Well, boys, if you remember, it was a long time ago, but he has a history of doing that. Rob Gronkowski had his senior year. He was out the whole year. And then Belichick drafted him in the second round, and I heard that went pretty well. So yeah, absolutely. In the first 2 rounds, they got to get a wide receiver. We got to go for it.
Yeah, I don't see them picking a wide receiver in the first round, but I'd love to see them pick one in the second
agree.
round. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they need help.
And maybe one of those long shots that should be a first rounder, but
Yeah.
due to injury and maybe not going to start right away, fall into the second. I just assume they're going to go for a defensive lineman or a linebacker in the first round.
All right, boys, tell me in the history of sports, has a coach, a head coach, a manager been successful at 70 plus years old? Will Bill Belichick leave on his own, or will Bob Kraft have to fire him?
I think he'll have to leave on his own. I don't see Kraft ever firing.
Yeah. I think he'd have to have a real sort of incident to get fired, right?
Like he'd have to not be able to find his car when he came out.
Yeah, I think honestly, there's a handshake deal that says, give me a shot at breaking Shula's record in the next 2 to 3 years, and then I'll walk away.
Because Belichick could leave right now, and there would be a lot of money thrown at his feet to come anywhere.
I thought there'd be more reaction to him down at the Trump estate there with Urban Meyer, but there wasn't a peep up here about it.
I don't think that many people saw it, Joe.
Yeah.
I
So
didn't see it.
for our audience, Belichick spent his Super Bowl Sunday at Mar-a-Lago hanging out with scumbag Urban Meyer and scumbag Donald Trump. So that's the way. If that's who he wants to socialize with, I could care less at this point. What I care about is he's 70 plus years old. I don't know if you guys noticed the 2.
I think he's 68 going on 69, Scotty. Not quite.
Round it out. He's 70 years old. At that point, come on. The coaches that were in the Super Bowl were in their 30s. This is the game, guys. It's moving on.
But it was only 5 years ago. The 2 coaches in the Super Bowl were the 2 oldest in the league, not the 2 youngest.
But that's not happening.
It was Pete Carroll, who was older than Belichick.
That's not happening.
I don't know.
70,
A good coach is a good coach. I don't know how much age has to do with it.
I think to me, the problem is, Scott, on this, I think you can't have the conversation about Belichick without having the conversation about his delegates, his coordinators, his coaching staff. And my biggest concern right now is, as you get older, you would think that you would be increasing the quality and the experience of your coaching staff. And it seems to be going in the opposite direction. And that's my biggest concern, is not the number of his age, right? But much more about who are his people on the staff right now.
Can't keep anyone. Look at that offense now. The offensive coordinator left and took the quarterback's coach, took the wide receivers coach, and he took the offensive line coach. And the running backs coach is going to be retiring. That is every position coach and the coordinator on the offense, all gone. Has to build the whole staff like he's a rookie coach.
Do other teams go through this way? I mean,
the
Patriots get pilfered.
Not as much, but they all go through it.
Does it seem like an inordinate amount of Patriots coaches get pilfered?
No, well, yes and no, but no one's been pilfered like Sean McVay's been pilfered. Nobody.
It's Shanahan too.
His staff gets strip cleaned every year. And I read this article the other day, Tim, that talked about the difference between Belichick and McVay is McVay knows he's going to get poached, and he really he tries to include everybody in his process throughout the year, because he knows he's going to lose 2 or 3 coaches every year, and he wants these other guys standing in line behind them. Belichick doesn't do that.
Yeah. Well, I just think at this point, he's not going to be the coach. He shouldn't be the coach in 3 years. He's surrounding himself with his sons and giving them big positions.
They're the only ones that don't go to other teams.
We thought Josh McDaniels was the successor. He's clearly not. I don't know what the future is for the New England Patriots as far as their coaching staff.
It's a pretty good job security when dad's your boss.
I have no sense of this whatsoever.
There's no succession plan. There's no succession plan.
None, right? Because Jonathan Kraft, to be honest with you, should be stepping in, and he should be the face, ownership-wise, of the organization, and they should get rid of Belichick and throw him out.
Well, whoa. Hang on there, Scotty. You're trying to run Belichick out of town. He just went 10-7.
Season hasn't started yet, Scott.
Oh my God, Scotty, this team was not badly jump on stuff.
This team was not badly served by Belichick last year. He had a decent draft and he coached it well. My bigger concern is looking forward. I don't know, but that guy deserves his job.
Yeah, he had a great draft, Scotty. He had a great draft. All his coaches just got pilfered from him. So they're good coaches. Everyone gets stolen except for his kids. He's 3 years removed from a Super Bowl after 5 Super Bowls before that, and you just want to.
Everybody's 70 years old. I mean,
I'm 60 years
Scotty,
old.
how old do you feel? Scott, how old do you feel? You're 55.
I don't know.
You don't feel 55, right?
I am.
You don't feel 55, do you?
But I don't even know what that means.
You look in the mirror and you see 25, don't you?
70 years old. 70 years old today is not like it was 70 years old.
70 is not. I was just out of Florida.
It's not like 70-year-old George Callis.
Guys,
Florida, there were people out partying until 4 a.m. that was 70 all around me. It was crazy.
Would you agree with me that I bet you the number one reason that Tom Brady retired was all these athletes, when they retire, they say what they're going to miss most is the room. Is spending time in the locker room with the guys. They always say it, 100% all say it. They don't talk about the money, anything. He couldn't relate at 44 years old with the guys in the room anymore. And that's when you want to leave. That's when it's time to hang up. When you're a coach at 70 years old, how can you relate to these 22-year-olds?
Was there anything this year that suggested that he's lost a step?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that.
Now, so be specific. I want to hear specifics.
The team quit on him after the bye week. They quit on him. That was a completely
that
different
may or may not
team.
be true, but that to me has nothing to do with his age. That has nothing to do with.
But they did. You'll admit, Russ, that was a different team coming back from the break when they played the Colts. Moving forward, that didn't look like the same.
That could happen to any coach in any year. That has not. I don't think the fact that he's 68 had anything to do with how they performed after the bye.
Teams go on losing streaks. They go on winning streaks.
Yeah.
The Patriots picked a bad time to go into a lull.
But
A very
but
bad
Mac Jones, this rookie quarterback who doesn't want to say a peep
And
out
what
of
game
line,
did he win this
literally
year?
said in a press conference after the Colts game that there were problems. There was dissension in the ranks the whole week. All players were doing was bitching and moaning.
So Scotty, who do you trust to solve that? Like wouldn't you want Bill Belichick solving that problem than some coach you're trucking in from some other organization?
Come on. Wait, when is it time for him to go? We've learned with the players.
Oh, Sean McVay,
Larry Bird.
Sean McVay, should they get rid of him 2 years ago when the Patriots absolutely mopped the floor with them in the Super Bowl?
The guy's a young.
Yeah, but the Patriots mopped the floor with them. They had a more talented team than the Patriots, and the Patriots mopped the floor with them. Should they? That was 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. Should they have Belichick mopped the floor with him, Scotty?
And every team in football every year is trying to find the next Bill Belichick, Mike Tomlin,
right,
McVay. They're looking for that long-term solution, a young guy that'll be a long-term solution, but they can't find it.
Was it 2 or 3 years ago we won the Super Bowl against the Rams?
18.
He absolutely humiliated McVay.
Humiliated
years
McVay.
ago, Scotty.
Right.
Okay, I know. All right. As we know with age, there comes a point where it's time to wrap it up. I mean, what do you guys think? This goes on forever?
You're not giving us a specific instance of some cognitive decline that caused a problem this year. We've seen no.
I hate to work for you. When
Did he call a timeout when the game was over?
I saw conservatism. I saw not going for 4th and 1s that were unconscionable. That actually
none of that has to do with his age. That we can argue about that he's too stubborn. But he's always been that way. He's always been that way. This is who he is.
Get the job done. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you can't find your car in the parking lot, that's one thing. But you're still producing. I mean, that's what I hope. That
he just went 10-7 with a rookie quarterback. He went 10-7 with a rookie quarterback.
You show me one other coach that has done that.
It doesn't happen.
There's a reason there was mandatory age retirement for so many years. He's gone way. He's just so. Oh, for God's sake, guys! Seriously,
I know your numbers. I know your numbers are still number one. I still, you sold the most in the company this year, but you got to, your forehead's getting a little longer and the whiskers are getting a little wider.
There's no history. There's no history to suggest that any coach at that age or older has been successful in any major sport.
Brady won a Super Bowl.
Casey Stengel.
44.
I
think age is changing now. Like 50s, just 30 now, and 60s, 40.
It's going to be Woody Hayes. He's going to end up slugging some guy who intercepted.
I hope we're saving the tape, Ian, because we're going to play this for Governor Dukakis next year when he comes.
Talking about
one thing we've learned tonight is Scotty's an ageist. And when we're doing this job,
he's anti-denti too.
When we're doing this show in about 14 and a half years and Scotty's pushing 70, we're going to have a real conversation.
Oh,
yeah. If we're doing this show in 14 years.
Yeah, you feel when there's a 6 in front of your age and see when people start talking like this, Scotty.
All right. Well, as usual, I'm going to be proven right. So, yeah, you saved the tape, actually. Absolutely. All right. We go to baseball, and they're just lunatics.
Speaking of lunatics.
The one thing
Marty Walsh has offered to step in. Okay, there's hope.
Which is ridiculous. Marty Walsh he has other concerns than a private industry, like baseball. They were supposed to start spring training yesterday. They're not even talking. That doesn't even make any sense to me. What's the play of the owners? Do they even care anymore?
No. There's no sense of urgency. They don't. Then you seem to think they make a fortune on spring training. I think they basically break even.
No, Joe, they don't. They don't pay the players anything. No, they're crazy. The owners are insane. Do you realize what they're trying to do now? They don't want to pay the minor league players anything. Zero to attend spring training. Zero. They don't want to pay them anything. They don't even want to pay a minimum wage.
They're supposed to feed themselves.
Yeah, they don't care. They like having the minor league players live in poverty. I'm not even making this up. We're talking about the little pittance of money that they're
The
not
per
willing.
diem.
Yeah, they don't even give these guys proper food. They don't give a proper housing, proper toiletries, nothing. Yet they expect these guys to rise in the ranks and then pay them the minimum wage when they get to the major leagues, and serve them.
Yep, Scotty, as much as I disagreed with you on the last topic, I agree with you on this one. If I have this sort of feeling that the NFL ownership there's a sense of sort of corruption in there, like the Major League Baseball ownership is just a sense of just stupidity, ignorance, really just hard-headed, backward ignorance.
Plantation mentality.
Just
They do.
really, really sort of astounding that they keep doing this to themselves over and over again, and they cannot get out of their own way to figure out that their sport is dying in front of us.
See, they don't care. It's professional baseball, and they're making money hand over fist, every last one of them. So what do they care if they don't care if they don't even play the season?
They see though that they could be making more money.
They don't care. As long as they're making money, they're making money.
But
Bottom line.
then we see the young people that were fans and were
Yeah.
at the games at Fenway, and
Right.
They
we've
build on
spoken
that.
about that on this show a number of times. How it changed. It was all of a sudden
Totally.
80% young people, and the atmosphere was incredible.
It was fantastic.
But Russ is right. They can't get out of their own way. They're going to throw that all away, just like they threw it away 10 years ago.
I think
and
that
20
sport
years
would
ago.
explode if they dropped it to 7 innings. I think it would just, you couldn't be able to. You wouldn't have to. You'd have to build more seats in these parks.
Yep.
And have happy hour from the 5th to the 7th inning.
Yeah.
Scotty, you're right. And then where's the leadership? So whatever happened, like the Red Sox figured it out last year, right? There were younger people. There was an excitement. Obviously, it was a good team, but they're doing something. Where's John Henry and Werner and these guys taking the lead in these negotiations to try to solve it, like Kraft did in the NFL strike, where he stepped in? He was like, Manfred, you don't hear any other owners. No one's stepping in to try to shake the tree on this thing.
No, you're right. Great point. Nobody speaks up at all. They're just a united front. I mean, they're just.
I got to give the NHL a little credit here. They knew that people hated going to games that ended in a tie, so they created overtime. And then they knew that people hated an overtime tie, so they created a shootout. I mean, you can make adjustments to make your sport more interesting.
But Timmy, that's not the issue right now. The issue is that they're not going to play. The issue.
I know. But what I'm saying in the big picture about their lack of ability to think outside, of this narrow-mindedness.
But this is an indication that they can't get to the rules until they get their shit together as far as all the other stuff. Okay, so make sure that your minor league system that's corrected. Make sure that your players are happy. Do all these other things, and then yes, we can get to the rules and tighten up the game.
But Scotty, that's the problem. The rules are under negotiation too in this CBA. They make this the one huge, all-inclusive contract that how many games are going to be played, how many home, how many away, how many innings. All this is in the contract of this CBA. It's too much in one agreement.
But I'm with you, Scotty. It's like they can't even do the basic thing, which is to put the product on the field.
Yeah, they can't do it.
Just put the product on the field. And this is not like, this is a private business, but this isn't a private. This is a public good. Major League Baseball is a public good. We've invested money.
Yeah, for sure.
All of us have invested money in baseball. We've invested time. I've spent way too much time thinking about Major League Baseball in my 55 years in this career, right? And the only thing that they need to be doing right now is to get that product on the field.
Yeah.
And
we built public stadiums. So they've literally invested in these stadiums, and they have a right to see that they're of a return. Okay, what happens? Because it feels like there's a possibility that this season could be canceled.
It's happened before. I can see it happening again.
And we always check, would that be the final nail in the coffin? Would all of a sudden it go down to tennis as far as
Yeah.
popularity.
I mean, look, Timmy, you'll remember, like, after that 94 strike, it took steroids and an epic home run, duel
Exactly.
to bring baseball back. And guess what? That ain't happening again. That's over.
That was baseball's bird and magic right there.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yep. And they knew what was happening, but
they weren't going to be taking any needles back from anybody back then.
Right.
It'll be just like coming back from COVID. Remember, they missed that, and that the second half of that season, no one cared.
If they could have those home runs, getting hit an extra 100 feet more than they were going, they would have done it.
Well, let me offer a counter. I just sort of thought of this. So season gets canceled, or there's just basically nothing. Does it bottom out to the point where whatever gets reconstituted is the game that we all want? It's the 7-inning game. It's allowing the players to show to show personality after home runs. It's a pitch clock. It's a 2-hour and 30-minute game tops. I'd take that. By the way, if you said to me, you have to sacrifice a year of baseball in order to get the game to where we all know it needs to be, right? Which is 2.5 to 2.25 tops. And the thing is moving and the ball's in play and guys are stealing bases and stuff like that. I'd take that.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. And maybe 4 or 5 teams go.
And go back to 154 so you could slice off either the April games or the September games.
Right. I'd gladly invest a year in that.
162 games is just ridiculous. Really, it's just too much. I mean, and the quality of play suffers dramatically. I mean, these guys, that's the reason why they were taking amphetamines like M&Ms is these guys cannot do that. You can't play 162
bouncing
games
from city to city. And
now when you talk about bringing in the whole gambling aspect, where there's going to be more pressure on these players to perform on a daily basis because people are going to be wagering on every pitch.
You've seen a little taste of that with DraftKings, you know what I mean, in fantasy baseball, and people feeling the pressure to, perform for fantasy teams and things like that.
So in a pop-up, they might boo you right off the field.
Yeah, they talk about it. These guys talk about it, who's the number one fantasy player and all that stuff.
They say that when fans approach them, the first thing they always talk about is they're on their team. Their fantasy league. They don't talk about the game or anything.
I bet $10 on DraftKings every Sunday, and you would think I have $1 million. You know what I mean?
Right. No, it's bizarre. All right, boys, we go to the Boston Bruins. And first of all, anytime you guys report to me, if I didn't watch a game that the Bruins lost in a shutout, they always lose in a shootout.
This year they were doing well until last night. I think they'd won like 4 in a row.
They did?
Yeah.
They've been historically the worst team, I think.
Yes,
you're right. It does feel like that, Scotty. I can see why it feels like that.
Yeah.
We get to a shootout. You're kind of expecting the Bruins to take the L.
Would it be worth in the standings and need a better stat guy than me to have one guy on the team who's just really good in one-on-one hockey and had kept him on the roster?
Like Opie was with the Olympics,
Right, like a designated runner. Remember the last guy? Would it be worth it on that? As far, you know what I mean, Russ? As far as statistically, if you realize that you could win 3 additional games that this one,
like having a good long snapper or a good punter.
Yeah, this one player would mean 3 to 4 points in the standing.
Although the only problem is that the guy only gets 1 turn in a shootout, right? So if your 3 other guys suck, even that one guy is not going to make that much of a difference.
I'll just tell you guys, I don't know why I just started this story. I'll tell you a quick story. I had a Russian goalie on my UMass hockey team. And he said, I bet you $20 you can't score me 3 times on 10 breakaways. I thought I was going to be taking his money, right? Because I'm thinking, I got this move, I got that move. Guess who had to give $20 away? It's hard to score on a good goalie on a breakaway. I would say that the goalie, I don't know, might have 60-70% odds when you do it. And
that's how much he covers. Begin with.
Every hockey player has practiced one on, coming down on the goalie a zillion times in their life, and they're practicing their moves on the side and everything like that. So, Scotty, I don't know if that specialist would ever be any better than these superstar hockey players. When you think of Marchand, Bergeron, Coyle, Pasta, who's the other guy? 81 there. These guys. You're not going to find a guy who's just a specialist who's going to be any better than these guys are.
Well, in the 70s, if I remember correctly, when there were penalty shots, it was almost always a goal.
Not anymore. I don't
Well,
know.
we didn't have masks then either.
I'd like to know the odds at the end of a game. I wonder if I can look it up right now. What the percentage is on shootouts?
Last night was a real long one. I think it went nine rounds.
Wow.
Mostly not scoring, Joe, or scoring.
50-50. And then they finally scored when the Bruins hadn't.
Okay, so now that Tuukka is gone officially, it's Swayman or bust, right?
He's looked good, though, I got to say, for a rookie.
What do you think that was all about, bringing Rask back? I mean, obviously, that was far from an endorsement to Swayman. Was it just the opportunity to send him down and give him a little more seasoning?
I don't think it had anything to do with Swayman. I think they were probably figuring you catch lightning in a bottle with Rask. It's only $1 million, and if it doesn't pan out, the exact same thing happens. What just happened, which is you just call Swayman back up and you in your role.
And NHL locker rooms are funny. The veterans stick together. They don't want rookies.
Yeah.
They're different than most of the other sports. They're really hard on rookies in NHL locker rooms.
Okay, Marchand gets 6 games, and all right, we have to give props to the guy on my right. The professor called that. Congratulations, I'll give that to you. You'll from now be our suspension guy.
Yeah.
We'll turn to you for an answer. How many games you're going to get? Brad Marchand needs to stop this shit.
He really does. I mean, there was a stretch, I think, Timmy, where he really didn't get into trouble for a long time. And then he kind of snapped again a couple times this year. And you can't get rid of your history, right?
He's got that rage issue. Some people have that rage issue. They just see red in front of them, and the normal human thought process just goes right out the window.
And
he kind of got screwed because remember that history thing. It was supposed to be if you went 2-3 years without committing an infraction, everything was supposed to be cleared up, and he was going on that premise when he got into the trouble last year.
Well,
and
I heard him
with the big suspension for the history when they weren't supposed to.
Joe, did you hear him in his
press
conference?
The same judge from 10 years ago. They still remember.
No. What did he say, Scotty?
Totally unapologetic. Said he didn't think he did anything.
Scotty.
Oh, I agree. I've heard that much out of him on this.
He wasn't sorry at all, Timmy.
That was Marchand?
What?
Marchand was unapologetic?
Unapologetic. At the end,
I don't know what provoked him either. It wasn't like he didn't do anything that was going to hurt anybody, really. He punched the guy who's got a bunch of equipment on him, you know what I mean? And then he took a swipe at his cage. The guy's got a freaking face mask on and the helmet.
Oh, you can't. Come on, Timmy. He
really wasn't going to hurt him, Scotty.
You can't do that. Even the
wind up with your stick and take
You can't flash the stick at anyone.
Yeah,
I know. And this guy's a goalie. Listen, I know when I'm out there. This guy.
I go back with.
I can take a baseball bat and a goalie, and he probably wouldn't even
Chico Mackey.
Really feel it.
Timmy,
Scotty, what do you want to say?
Timmy,
he's freaking covered in padding.
Timmy, they just got a contract on ESPN. They've all of a sudden hit the big time again. They don't need Brad Marchand attacking a defenseless goaltender twice within being restrained by a referee.
The guy has 50 pounds of pads on him.
Timmy's going old school hockey. The Hanson brothers. He's going to bust down.
Scotty, if you went to a guy who had no face shield on him and sliced him in the face, I would have an issue with it, right?
Old-time hockey.
Hitting a goalie.
Hockey.
Okay, Timmy. So it wasn't enough that he pushed him down and the guy went down.
Pushed him down.
Okay, fine. That wasn't enough. He then, when the guy got up, he had to stick stick his blade in the guy's eyes.
Yeah, that's what it was all about, the blade.
And it's fully covered face,
I'm
caged
dying.
eyes. That's
Why did he have?
not his
we
eyes,
can't
buddy.
be
He has a
doing
big
it.
cage in
This
front of
is-
his eyes.
Just for the record,
So Tim, if he pulled a knife out and brandished it at him, that would be okay too.
Stabbing me wouldn't have hurt him. He has
so
pads
just for
on
the
him.
record, Scotty, how long have we been doing this show?
8 years.
By far the most perturbed that I've ever seen Timmy in 8 years.
I know.
Congratulations.
Goalie was faking it. He was faking it, I
I
tell
know,
you.
right?
Congratulations, Scotty. Mazel tov. You got Timmy.
I know.
The guy
He's
is
red. He's gonna go beat the hell out of the dog when he
The
gets
guy
back.
is covered. Never. The kid's baby. The guy's covered in padding. Come on.
It's like
Shoot him and probably
bulletproof.
survive.
Marshawn could have pulled out a 45 and shot him.
He
And
probably would have lived. Mushroom.
lived.
It's hard getting through those big pads.
Oh, I'm
It
dying.
is.
I'm dying here.
I'd
It had to be more than a 22. 38 wouldn't do it either.
I'd say it looked a lot worse than it really was.
You're killing me.
That's my opinion.
Oh my
You're
God.
killing me.
Yes, that's exactly it, Tim. It looked a lot worse than it was. You're right. But that's what he got suspended on the look.
Yeah, the optic. I said that, Timmy. Yeah, look, Timmy has been public for many years and said if the Bruins lose 4-3, but they win fights 4-3, then it was a good night, and he's happy when he leaves.
And the stands will be filled. Yes, he's right.
You're happy. Then I mean, there you go. That's
I'm an
fine.
animal. I'm a Jamaica plain animal. What can I say?
That's fine. Look, but Brad Marchand, would you admit, Timmy, is a punk?
I would say he has temper issues.
Oh my God, Timmy!
He's
Brad
my
is
punk. He's
you're
my
Brad's
punk.
daddy. You're
He's
Brad's
my punk.
daddy. Only
And
his
look at
father
these-
would
Tim,
do that like that.
Look at these games without him and Bergeron. They got shut out 6-0,
It's
and they
all-
only got one goal last
Take
night.
Pasta, Bergeron, or Marchand out of the equation. It's not a pretty picture.
You can't look for as talented as he is. This act has gotten really old, and you can't do this anymore. And it's going to take away from his great talent and his great success over the years that he was just a scumbag punk too. But so
Yeah, he should be a first ballot lock to be a Hall of Famer. It's going to be an iffy thing.
Now, can you look at it like this? Scotty, you met him in person. You said he's a really small guy.
yeah.
A really small
What's
guy.
He's only about 5'5".
It's a game
oh
of
my God, so
intimidation.
small you wouldn't believe it.
So he really can't go toe to toe with anybody, right? I mean, he really can't. These guys are backing at him. They're taking shots.
You got to cheap shot him.
Nobody passes up a shot to Barry Marchand, right? So what is his only recourse really that he has? You got to be a filthy little effer when you're out there. That's what he has to be. Now, I'm not saying you should go around, slew footing people and stuff like that, but he's a little guy, and he had, any little dirty way he can do to kind of get at the other guy, he's kind of got to do it.
When you're small, you got to be quicker and avoid those guys.
You got to be dirty. You got to be a few other things.
Float like a butterfly.
You're so right. I've never seen him so angry, but I've never seen that big smile like that now too.
He's ready to go. He
I'm
wants to
ready
get
to
into a
show
hockey
that.
fight. He wants to get into a hockey fight right
I
now.
like rough hockey.
That's his mic drop right there. He's so happy right now. We're ending it with that big Irish smile. My God. Oh, the ladies are going to be all over him.
All right.
All right, well, that's our show.
That's our show
tonight.
for the night.
Want to thank Ian for all his good work behind the scenes. Want to
Thank you, Ian.
Please check us out on our website at thegrandstanders.com and tune in again next Wednesday night at 6:30 for another edition of Grandstanders Live. I'm your host, Scott Kerman. Have a great and happy night.